the summer between the 4th grade and the 5th grade, I think it was at the end of July, I was teasing a girl who lived behind me, a fellow classmate, and she picked up a rock and threw it at me and hit me over my left eye. And I don't know, it was 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And I bled a lot. And my hometown at the time was probably about 5,000 people. And there were 2 local doctors in town. And our doctor, Merlot, wasn't in town. And he didn't come back until that evening. And and the other doctor, White, wasn't in town. So there was no doctor in town to take, because my mother took me to the hospital and there was no one there. I mean, no doctor. So they wouldn't give me a tetanus shot or any medicine. So and at that time, doctors used to make home visits. So when Merlot came at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, he said, well, since you've had so much bleeding, I don't think it would do any good to give you a tetanus shot. I think we just ought to clean up the wound and suture it and clean it out and watch you. So I believe it was 2 weeks later when I went out to my mother's family reunion, the first week in August on a Sunday. I was having a dish of homemade ice cream, and it took me about an hour to eat the dish, and my jaw felt like it was getting so I couldn't move it. And Monday, when I woke up, I couldn't move my jaw any. So they took me to the hospital, and I don't know, ran some tests, and they said that I had Lockjaw. Well, I was in the hospital then all the rest of the month of August, and the doctor said, well, we don't really know what we ought to do here, but I think we ought, if we're going to try something, we ought to give you huge amounts of antitoxin for tetanus, for Lockjaw. And because you get scratches, you want to scratch your skin. They wrapped both my hands, so I couldn't do that because they were worried that I might scratch my skin and let something in through the pores of my skin. And they took out 1 tooth or 2 in the front teeth so they could feed me with, so I could suck through a straw. And so they essentially fed me through the veins and let me drink malts the rest of the summer. And back then, the incidence rate was about, if you got Lockjaw, about 90% of the people who got it died. So, so my teeth were pretty well no space between them, between the upper jaw and the lower jaw. So the only way, my tongue would get stuck between my teeth, and the only way I could get it out was to pull on the tongue until a piece of it would tear off. So when I got out at the end of August, I had all kinds of jagged pieces either hanging or pulled off all the way around my tongue. And my mother's sister, one of her sisters, her son lived with us, and he was a year older than me. And she used to come up and sit in the hospital and read me, I think the book was Little Women. She read that book and 2 or 3 others during the course of the summer. Well, just before Labor Day, they let me out of the hospital, and they were very worried that I would scratch myself and cause trouble, so they wrapped my hands really in all kinds of gauze and told me and wanted my mother to watch me to make sure I wasn't scratching something. And I think I went to school a week late, and so the first week in September I think I was still home, and then they let me go to school. So that was kind of a, that was just a fortunate situation that this doctor decided to give me all this toxin, antitoxin, just to keep it from killing me or doing whatever it does.